So you probably clicked this link because you're thinking about learning your first ever foreign language. You're interested in what might be the easiest, what might be the most fun, or the most practical, or the most useful even. Well, over the last 12 months, I've learned 4 languages, and I think I have finally worked out which is the one that I would most recommend for complete beginners. My name is Tom, and I want to tell you what that language is and why I think it could really work for you. I'm also going to show you my working, so to speak, so that even if you don't agree with my conclusion, hopefully you'll learn a little bit about the method, which you can then apply to choose a language of your own. So without any further ado, let's go inside, and I'm going to tell you why Italian is the best language for a first-time language learner. So the first thing, and probably one of the most important things when you're learning a language, is that you have the opportunity to practice. Now, book learning is all well and good, but there is really no substitute for getting out there and speaking. Now, you might think that Italian is at a bit of a disadvantage here because it's only the 23rd, 25th most spoken language in the world, but I promise you, Italian is not only spoken in Italy, Italian is spoken all over the world. Since I started speaking Italian, I've heard members of the Italian diaspora everywhere that I've been on the planet. And what's great is that everybody that I have met from this community has been really keen to speak to me, really happy when I approach them and start speaking in Italian. So you've got a great opportunity to practice right on your doorstep, no matter where you are. So the next thing to think about when we're considering our new language is grammar. And we want to avoid the really horrible, really complex stuff. We want grammar to be straightforward and easy to understand. And this is where Italian has got your back. I love Italian grammar, which makes me sound like a massive nerd, but it is true. Let me tell you why. Because Italian grammar, it does have complex systems, but they are the most straightforward, simple version of those systems that I've ever come across learning languages. So I think it is a really great place to start if you're beginning. Let me give you an example. Most European languages have a distinction between a formal and an informal mode of speaking. Now, Italian also has this, but rather than having to learn a whole new conjugation, you just use the third person feminine when you want to speak in a formal way. Simple. Now, if you ask me, this is absolutely the best of both worlds because you're not getting too stressful too soon, but you are learning really important concepts and really important grammatical structures that will set you up perfectly for the next language that you might choose to learn. Now that brings me on neatly to my next bonus of Italian, which is that it gives you a great link to other languages, in particular the Romance languages of French and Spanish. For example, after a few months of studying Italian, I shocked myself really by being able to understand a whole conversation in Spanish. But it's not just Romance languages. Many of those grammar structures I spoke about earlier come up again in slightly more complex forms in Dutch, German, Norwegian even. So if language learning was a game, then I would totally use Italian as the tutorial level. And to me, it kind of is a game, I guess, and a game that I really hope that you get hooked on. And if you want to see what that looks like, by the way, then check out the rest of my channel because I put up videos every week like this of me just geeking out about languages. But where was I? Yes, getting hooked. But to get hooked on a language, you need it to be fun and you need there to be a sense of progress and achievement. And this is my thing number 4, why I think that Italian is a great language to start off with, because it has this in spades. Now, I'm a bit of a geek, so please do ignore me if I just sound like I've gone too far, but I find learning Italian really, really fun. In particular, I enjoyed using the diminutive forms and the gerunds when I was first starting out. Now, both of these things I genuinely really enjoy playing around with, but there's so much stuff like that in Italian, and it seems to be quite front-loaded, I think. For me, a lot of the fun stuff comes right at the start, which can really help you motivate to keep pushing forward. Now, of course, this loops right back around to the grammar that I was speaking about earlier. Because the grammar is reasonably straightforward and reasonably easy to get to grips with, you will feel confident and secure much earlier than you might do in other languages, and that will again help to motivate you to push on to the real juicy stuff later on. So now we have all the tools at our disposal. There's just one more thing I want to mention, which is about breaking down the barriers to speaking. We want to smash down those barriers and get out there and speak as much as possible. For me, one of the key things here is pronunciation. I feel awful if I know that I am murdering the pronunciation of a language. It makes me lose confidence and it makes me less willing to speak. And I'm looking at you here, French. Luckily, in Italian, the rules are small in number and reasonably easy to understand, if potentially hard to master. But what I think this gives you is a really nice balance of fun versus challenge. Now, finally, the last barrier to getting out there and speaking is something that I like to call the Scandinavian effect. And what I mean by that is when you go to the country, you start to speak to the locals, and their English is so good that you never get a chance to actually practice your target language. Now, this can be very frustrating, but what I've found in Italy is that they strike a really nice balance between the two extremes that might be possible here. Because you are totally able to speak English if you need to, for a word, for a sentence, or just to swap out entirely, and most people will understand you perfectly fine. But on the other hand, if you want to practice your Italian and you start conversations in Italian, I think people really appreciate it, and they're more than happy to let you speak, even if you are making errors. And I've never felt forced to swap back to English because I've messed up a conjugation or something. So that's why I would recommend Italian to anybody who is starting off learning languages. It is a beautiful language and incredible culture, and if you get a chance to come over here to Italy, it is an incredible country to spend time in. And not only that, but by learning Italian, you will set yourself up perfectly for almost anything that you might choose to go on to next. But what do you think? Are the things that I pointed out relevant to you? Is there another language that you might recommend to beginners maybe? Lots of the things that I've said, I have also heard said about Spanish, so I would love to hear from the Spanish speakers out there. Either way, let me know in the comments, and even if you agreed with every single thing that I've said so far, then remember to scroll down anyway, see what others are saying, and join the conversation. Anyway, thank you for watching. As always, there is weekly language learning content going out on this channel, so remember to subscribe if you want to keep up to date with everything that's coming out. For now though, grazie mille ancora, buona fortuna con l'italiano e a dopo. Ciao ragazzi!